If a child is having a tantrum, it's not your fault.
Right.
It's a normal thing. It's not, don't think, oh, I'm not parenting right, my child is so upset. No, it's a normal, manipulative human behavior
Right.
that comes
You
from little
wanna-
children.
You want to nip it in the bud. You don't want it.
Expect it and
Yes.
have a strategy. So, what do you do about tantrums? Tantrums, those are scary behaviors.
And let me just say, as far as my experience, every child will have tantrums. They will have a
I remember
tantrum.
having a tantrum when I was a little one.
They typically, the will tends to, in our experience, what we've noticed is start at 15 months. And that's usually about the time we first have a
Yes.
tantrum. There might be a little bit younger.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do?
What do you do with a tantrum?
Okay,
It's like they're totally uncontrollable.
Right.
There's like almost, a child screaming and kicking and wailing and just you can't get through.
right. So it depends where you're at, what you do. At home,
Well, you're normally at home, so it's probable that the first tantrums will occur
At
at
home.
home. What you don't want is a tantrum at the grocery store.
okay, well, that might happen though, and it has happened. But let's talk about at home. At home, what we would do, you don't reward tantrums.
And what do you mean by reward?
Well, they're having a tantrum because they want something that you're not willing to give them.
And they want to upset
Oh, they want
you.
to do something that is unacceptable.
So it's kind of a
manipulation.
a subconscious manipulation to force you to react to them.
Right, to give in to them.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They want you to give in. So what you do is you don't give in.
Yeah. Never reward a tantrum by
Right.
giving them what they want.
To get them to be quiet.
Even if it's whatever it is.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter if it's something good. Dinner. You don't reward
a
a
tantrum.
tantrum by giving them what they want, even if it's something good,
Yeah,
because you're rewarding a tantrum.
right. So the first thing we would do is you quickly, wherever they are flailing themselves, you quickly scan the area, and if there's anything dangerous, you remove that.
Right, or something they could break of yours that you want.
Right.
Like you don't want them to hit a lamp or
Yeah.
hurt themselves on the edge of a sharp table or whatever.
But clear the area and then ignore the behavior.
Yeah.
Turn your back and
Have a conversation
have a
with
conversation or do something else, but totally ignore the behavior. When they realize that you're not rewarding them, or that they're not getting what they want, it dies. You do that, strong-willed children, you might need to do it 2 or 3 or 4 times.
Right. But you
Sometimes it'll nip it in the bud with one. It
Depends on the child's personality.
child, right?
Yeah.
How
But if it happens a second or a third time, you're not failing.
right. You're just dealing with.
You're just dealing with, and you're not at fault. If a child is having a tantrum, it's not your fault.
Right.
It's a normal thing. It's not, don't think, oh, I'm not parenting right, my child is so upset. No, it's a normal, manipulative human behavior
right.
that comes
you
from
wanna,
little children.
You want to nip it in the bud. You don't want it.
Expect it and
Yes.
have a strategy.
Yeah, Okay, so ideally, tantrums happen at home. With our third child, we were at church.
Oh,
And it was after service. We were in the back,
in the foyer.
in the foyer. And our third one, I have no idea what the tantrum was over, but started having a tantrum. And the pastor's wife said, because our other children were very well behaved, because we trained them.
Yeah. So
How
old is she? How old is she?
I don't
Two-ish?
know. No, probably 18 months or
Okay.
15 months. It might have been 15 months.
All right.
Because it was the first tantrum is there at church. And the pastor's wife said to me, oh, I'm so glad that you got one of these.
Finally got one.
And finally got one, as if
Like,
like the other ones didn't have tantrums and this is just how they are.
Yeah.
And I told her, just you wait.
yeah.
Because I'm training my children, and she might have one now, and I know that's normal for a child to have some tantrums, but this was not going to last.
No.
And
You were confident of that.
oh, I was very confident. It already, all she saw was the end result of training of the first two, and she didn't think that either of them would ever have a tantrum. Little did she know that they're both very strong-willed, the first ones.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, yes, we had to deal with tantrums with them. And again, you don't reward the behavior. I don't know what we did in that instance.
Probably at church, we just picked her up and brought her to the car.
Yeah, we probably went home. It was after service.
Yeah.
Tantrums in the grocery store. Now, I remember, I don't know, I probably had about 5 kids with me, and one of them started having a tantrum. So, few in the cart, or hanging on the cart.
Why would they have a tantrum? Well, they want to pull something off the shelf you don't want them to have, or they want to sit in his car seat.
Or who knows? I mean, kids can have a tantrum over all sorts of weird things.
Yeah.
Again, you don't reward, you don't give in what they want.
What would you do in a grocery store?
Well, in a grocery store, I'm thinking, my time is very limited. I don't have time to come back. I quickly grabbed what I needed, got to the checkout, and left. And then,
While they're crying.
yeah, dealing with, depending on the age, but you just, I don't think it's good to give any kind of corporal punishment.
No. Definitely not in
in
public.
a store. I mean, but when they're in a tantrum, talking to them doesn't work.
You just kind of hold on to them firmly and just go about your business.
But I just, so in a store, quickly got the things that I needed to do, and we went home without rewarding whatever it was.
Yeah.
We had, now I wouldn't really say it's a tantrum. Children have strong wills. Yesterday, our adorable little 22-month-old granddaughter, so sweet, very well behaved, wanted a cracker, which was fine. The mother's there, that was fine with her. But I wanted her to eat it in the kitchen.
Over the kitchen floor where there's no carpet.
Right, as opposed to over the carpet. I didn't want her walking around, the family room with food, because then there'd be crumbs all over, and I didn't want to have to be cleaning that up. So she knew that she couldn't go out there. So I put it there.
Where'd you put it?
Well, I just put it on the chair.
In the kitchen.
In the kitchen, where she could see it. There's a door there, and then I didn't see this part, but you were.
She was like standing on the carpet, making sure her feet didn't go into the kitchen, trying to reach over.
It was a little bit too far.
Too far. She wanted you to hand it to her because she didn't want to leave the family room.
Right. She wanted to eat it in there.
In the family, even though we'd already said you have to eat it in the kitchen.
Right.
She doesn't talk too much, but she
totally
understands.
Don't let them fool you.
They even if they're not talking, especially any child over 1, pretty much understands what you're saying.
Yeah.
They might not have the vocabulary you do, but they know what you're saying.
Right. So she did not want to come in the kitchen, because then she knew
she'd have to be.
She had already eaten the first one. I had her sitting on my lap in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And
she didn't want to repeat that.
She didn't want to repeat that. She wanted the freedom. So then I put it on the chair, and I moved away into the family room. And I said, "You can go get it." And then when she saw I was far enough away that maybe she could go in and get it and run back out, she went in. I immediately got up and, in the doorway, sat down, and I became a barricade. I became the barricade, and she was not going to come through. And at one point, so then she starts screaming, because crying, screaming, sobbing.
Yeah.
She took it as an emotional front.
Yeah.
Sometimes tantrums aren't.
It wasn't an all-out tantrum, but it was.
No, it was an emotional affront. This is not what she wanted, and I'm like, sitting there. She's crying. I'm not going to let her through. She's trying to get through. She even, while standing there, holds her cracker over me, so it's standing over the carpet.
It's not her, but the cracker's over the carpet.
And while she's still in here, and then I just started. So one of the techniques I like to do is divert their attention. She's in a tizzy. She's in an emotional tizzy. And just before this, we had been looking at the rain. It was
We had a big storm.
a big storm, big hail, and thunder. So we had been experiencing this together. So I was reminding her, remember we were looking out the window and kind of talking like that, and that calmed her down a little bit. And then I started talking with her mom and Robert, and
Just
totally
ignoring
ignoring her. So I wasn't even looking at her, and the crying's dying down, and she's looking at me
Realizing,
to see, and she's realizing I'm not looking at her.
not paying any attention to
I'm
it.
not paying any attention to her. And then she kind of puts it up to her mouth. I can see through the, peripheral vision. And I continue talking, and then she looks back at me. Again, she sees that I'm totally ignoring her. Then she puts it up her mouth, and I hear a crunch. So then she starts eating her cracker, and then
She was fine.
She ate the whole thing. And then as soon as she ate it, the barricade removed, and she's in there. It wasn't a big scene. It was very pleasant.
Yeah.
And just diverting attention.
But again, ignoring them
It's like so effective.
is really effective, because when a child cries like that, when they want something, they're not getting it. They cry to force you to do it. And so to ignore the crying is to basically disarm them. They don't have
any
weapon.
ammunition. It's not getting to your heart. You're not fazed emotionally by their emotional display.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is stay calm. Anytime with parenting, you're not a failure. This is what children do.
Yeah.
Your child, if they're normal, at some point will have a tantrum.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anybody. Do you know anybody
No, all
who's
our
ever
kids,
said that,
no one ever had a tantrum.
yeah, I mean, that's pretty normal. So
Yeah.
if your kid's having tantrum, great. You have normal kids.
You have normal children.
So
You
don't-
haven't failed.
You're not failing. This is normal.
This is a normal developmental stage.
Right.
And if you deal with it early, it won't happen later. If you give into it early, it'll happen
will
at
happen
3.
again.
It'll happen at 4. It'll happen at 5.
And then the problem is they are getting bigger and they're getting stronger, and it gets more difficult.
And more dangerous.
And more dangerous
Because
for
they'll start-
everybody.
Yeah, for everyone. I mean, imagine a 6-year-old kicking at the furniture and swinging and running around.
Throwing things where
Throwing
they have an
things.
arm.
Yeah.
It can get very dangerous.
So you don't want that.
So you want to do it when they're little. Whenever
first-
your child's first tantrum is, you ignore the behavior and you don't reward it.
And they don't have the experience to know what you're doing, and you will succeed
Right.
in disarming that behavior and training them that they'll forget about it. That doesn't work. That'll come out of their repertoire.
Now I have to say, so when we see it in the form of a tantrum, as parents we think, okay, this is bad. But what's inside them is you have a strong-willed child. They have a will, and they're exerting their will.
Right.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
And if you have one who you're dealing with this, twice, 3 times, 4 times.
They're very strong wills.
Very strong wills. God made them with strong wills. Our job is to channel that will into doing what is right.
To do what is right.
So to have them,
To have a strong-willed child who is willing to do what is right. All right. Now imagine a teenager who is adamant about doing what is right.
right,
And is not swayed by
their
his
peers.
or her peers
Right.
to do what is wrong. Like they're strong-willed. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to mess with drugs. I'm not going to
Right.
get involved in premarital sex. I'm
Right.
not. I'm going to do what's right.
right.
Because they've got strong will. That's a gift from God.
Yeah.
Train it early.
Right. Right. So wherever your child is at in that spectrum, their character that's good.
Yeah.
We just have to get them
Right.
not kicking and screaming about bad stuff, but doing what is good.
Yeah.
Standing
It's all
firm.
part of the greater strategy to raise your family in a godly way and have those children, when they're adults, be excellent adults.
Right.
and excellent people
Right.
that will be contributing to their families, to their society, and making the world a better place. So expected
It's
behavior,
doable.
it's doable. Expected behavior,
Expect
it's your job
tantrums,
as a
right.
parent
Right.
to deal with it. You're not failing. It's just part of the job.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That is it.
Yeah. So don't worry.